It is lucky I am more mistrusting of people than you, my friend, else you'd be dead. Harkin continued to pull the trigger until all the empty chambers were discharged. I just looked at Harkin, but his expression did not change. It was constant throughout, despite the fact he would have killed me if there had been bullets in that gun. The leader whispered something to someone and Harkin was dragged off, still making no sound. The leader walked off, leaving the room empty bar me, and the screens that played horrors continuously. I sat on the floor and contemplated my existence, contemplated the very fact that someone I had put my trust in had let me down, when I thought I had a friend in him, and yet on the floor the gun lay, his betrayal. I thought, what would a man do for himself so that he might always be right? What lengths do men go to achieve their goals at the expense of others? I placed my head into my hands to cover my foolish, tired eyes, which had once again not seen the way of man's ambition to walk all over he sees. How in life one is unable to tell those who would stand by your side no matter what the fight, and those that smile at you whilst at the same time plot the end of your life. How does one tell which side those closest of you fall? I sat up and walked from the room, and was met again by the leader, who took me by the arm and said, "Now I hope you've tasted the bitterness of human existence. Maybe now you can stomach what I have to show you before you wish to join." Join, I thought. What is this he wishes of me? Must one now sign up to join the human race? He pulled me all the way into the kitchens and pointed to the plate in front of me. I picked it up and ate from it. It was strange, I must admit, the way in which he offered me food, but I was hungry, so did not refuse, despite his lack of courtesy. "I thought you were hungry. Like it?" I said yes. Then he took me round the corner, and on the floor the side of the kitchen lay a pile of dead bodies, with a silver knife stuck in them. I looked again and noticed that it looked as if the knife had been used to pull off the meat of the bones of these dead human beings. And then it struck me as I looked back at my plate. I rushed to the stove where the pan was boiling. I looked inside, and there I saw human remains. "It's all minced up. You wouldn't tell otherwise. We don't show anyone else. They'd starve." "You eat the dead?" "Please don't bring your morality, superiority here. I have no need for it. Anyway, you'll give yourself indigestion. We have no choice. You've already crossed our larder outside." He referenced the wasteland of dead bodies. "You barbarians, what have you descended into? You take the dead and carve them up on the floor in piles. This is not civilization." "Who said it was civilization? This is survival." "Survival? Eating human beings?" "They are dead and surplus now. Would you bury them instead? They have good proteins, good for you. You've seen everyone here. Don't tell me that they don't look healthy." "This is your way? What will you tell the children? Will they eat their parents and siblings without their knowledge? What is this cruelty? What have you become? What have you become?" I looked again at the pile of human bodies in the corner, a pool of congealed blood stuck to the floor. On the bodies I noticed inside worms and flies feasting on the dead remains. That should be buried, not consumed. I looked again at the leader, Max Ingram, and my stomach heaved, and the load of food I had ingested came up over his chest. I bent over and my stomach forced the rest out of me, and I coughed so hard I thought my ribs would break. So much water from my eyes ran down my cheeks. There on the floor in front of my eyes was the human meat I had consumed unbeknown to me. It only felt right that I had to suffer to bring it up again. The leader pulled my arm and I was taken to a great hall which had sleeping bags on the farthest side, and to the end was a chair by a huge dining table. He sat himself on the tall chair which towered way above me, and he looked down upon me as if he was some kind of god. But I had seen what his actions were, and they sickened me. I could no longer look him in the eye. I felt pure disgust for him. I no longer even considered him a fellow human being. Never in my life had such a feeling descended upon me as it did now. I could have no part of their survival. I would have to leave them. I would not stand by such people whose only future was to descend backwards. What worth of such a living? It was better to die a man of honor than to survive a beastly existence. The leader clapped his hand, and his latest freak show came on. 2 men wheeled a man who was strapped to a long device. "Allow me to introduce to you my brother. He feels the same way you do, won't eat either. He feels above all of this, and so I feel it my duty as leader of these people to punish him. Why should one man's word be above that which we all agree upon?" "But who made you leader?" I shouted out in anger, as I saw his poor brother's face tied with agony. "I should remind you that you are a visitor to my land. For your information, I was elected into this position by all here. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, every one of my citizens voted me into this position in a true and fair election, and thus I am the law, and so it be." "Then you would punish your brother like this, your own flesh and blood, and when he is dead, will you also eat him as you of the other nameless people? Why should you presume otherwise? It is not his flesh that I have a dislike for. It is his mind, his soul, his moral indignation of the life we all lead here in order to survive." "If that is your choice, then so be it. Wish that another way would come, but if you feel more pleasure in my death than in my life, dear brother, then let it be. Let it be so," came the soft and gravelly words of his brother, strapped to a device which seemed to send small doses of electricity through his body. I stood there as the 2 brothers argued, and I, with the little words that I had heard, I found in them quite a difference. For 2 that had been born from the same mother, it was truly unbelievable how 2 could be so unalike. One was cruel and evil, whilst the other was kind and good. They were like chalk and cheese. I could hold my tongue no longer, and so I asked, "How did you become so different?" Max answered the question with a level of distaste for such a suggestion to be even made. "Would you believe, according to my father, who long since passed, it was due to a bottle of juice? Strange, is it not, how something so insignificant and small can make the difference between us, my puny insipid brother, with me, brave and tall, a leader of men?" I wished to comment on his self-analysis of the situation, but he did not give me opportunity. "It was but a beginning, as all things have a beginning apparently, as legend as it has become, I asked for some juice and got it, and so my brother asked too for some juice and likewise got it. Then I decided I no longer wanted this juice and so refused it, and no question was made of it. Then my brother too refused his juice, but question was put to him why he asked, and now did not want it. And so it was that my parents, who up to that day they died, believed foolishly that they treated us equally, and let me tell you, as one whose faults were hidden and joys were trumpeted, there was nothing equal about their treatment of me and my brother, and so I got all I wanted and became this way, and my brother quiet and walked off belittled, became his way, which is why I am a leader, and he is a mere nothing. To me, your brother seems a better man than you could ever be. You speak of such coldness, it shocks me. How one could watch his own brother suffer and revel in it. I should do more than that. Watch me. You want to see my world? Then watch now." He walked up close to his brother, placed his hands by his brother's feet, feeling for some wires, and pulled out a set of buttons on a panel. At the touch of this button, 3,000 volts will surge through his body, burning him alive in front of your very eyes. This is my world. This is the world we live in now, that in which we must survive and be selfish and fight for ourselves alone. And those who will not fight, then they must, as all must, die. And with those words, without even taking a last look into his brother's eyes, he pressed the button, and a gut-wrenching minute of white flashes surged up and down his brother's body as he screamed in extreme pain and agony. His eyes bulging for the first few seconds, they stared straight at me, the only one in the room he felt need to contact with, as he met with the most painful death a man could endure in those briefest of moments. Excrement fell to the floor, vomit drooled from his quivering lips, his limbs became contorted and misshapen, perspiration dripped from his pain-stricken forehead. Then all of a sudden his head caught alight. He screamed for a second as more vomit, which caught the fire, screamed down his body, and then he was no more. And for a further 30 seconds of the minute, the white flashes of electricity burned his body to a crisp. Then, with a crackle, the voltage ceased. "Oh, dear God, what have you done?" "Please spare me your words of sorrow. He was my brother, and if anyone should grieve, then it should be me. And as I don't see why you should. If it makes you feel any happy, I shall not be eating him. His flesh is no more." You make me sick. Is this what society has turned into? What will be next? What other things have you abandoned, all in the name of survival? This, my friend, is law and democracy, and both of them are me. Now I hope you enjoyed that. And next is dessert. He clapped his hands again, and 2 women wheeled in Harkin attached to a rack which behind him had coals burning. What have you done to him? He must face his crime. This is his punishment, to slowly burn alive, layer of flesh by layer of flesh, as fits the nature of his crime. They burned in fractions of the second and were no more. He shall suffer days of slowly burning away till his skin is burnt off to boil his blood and his internal organs, and then and only then will his pain truly fit what he has unleashed upon us all. I looked up upon Harkin's eyes. He looked like he had been drugged up to stop him moving about too much, or having much consciousness of what was happening, but the pain I could see he felt, as his skin was bright red raw, and he would scream every so often from the bottom of his lungs while struggling to breathe, and his cry would break down as his voice could not carry the note. He did not deserve to die this way. No one does. You must stop this, I said, but the leader just laughed and pushed me to the ground and placed his foot on my shoulder. What right have you now, little man? If this is not of your taste, then go away from here. I will let no one interfere in our ways, and those that do like my brother shall die. But listen carefully to my words. If you wish to choose to live, then you must let go of those things you hold on dear, as they have no place for us now. He removed his foot. I wiped away the mud from my shirt and stood up and squared my eyes with his and stared at him with all the anger my body had to know. He pushed me away again. Each hand he pushed as I reached the door, and in the distance I could see Harkin fade away, but his screams were ever present, no matter how far away I was. He closed the large door, and I was left outside, as again Harkin screamed. I could only continue to imagine what pain he was experiencing. Every time I thought of his body red and burning, I would shiver from head to toe, and he screamed again. I walked away from the building out in the open, where his screams slowly faded from my ears. But I knew, whilst I could no longer hear his pain, it still continued. It still continued.